Be live. All right. Welcome to episode 3 of
Good morning, good morning, good morning to you. Oh, it's afternoon.
Afternoon.
My
Yeah.
bad.
Welcome to episode 3 of on the couch with Julian and Sharhonda. Uh, we missed you all. We took a little hiatus last week, and I think I'm actually going to start doing the streams every other week because we get our grandbaby on the weekends, and so that way it gives us some quality time with her. And
Yeah, she doesn't have to be like sequestered in the back.
yeah.
She does not like being sequestered.
Yeah, she likes being under her gaga and her grandpa.
It's my sugar mamas.
So we won't have a stream next week, but we'll have a stream the following week. But I'm really excited about this particular stream. I hope all of you all have been getting a lot from the previous streams. We definitely want to supply you all with something practical that you can take away from the stream and just kind of use in your everyday walk.
So we did the game, and I am a little disappointed.
Just a little bit.
Little bit disappointed that more of you didn't participate. But and because we only had one married couple and a wife participate, all three of them will get the journal. So
Yeah, you guys missed out on a prize. Again, this is supposed to be a positive space, but it's also a space that's your home as well. So, as much as we are giving to you all, we certainly would appreciate your participation.
a little
reciprocity.
reciprocity.
Reciprocity. Yeah, that word.
A little reciprocity.
Yeah, within the within the stream, and we're open to feedback. We certainly want to again build a space on Facebook that really isn't a place of toxicity. It's a place where you can come and heal. And even though we're starting out with relationships, because it's one of the things that we really do well. There will be other topics and other types of discussions, but we really wanted to have a space where we touch on relationships and marriages first, because that is the first ministry. That is the foundation, really, to everything. If you don't have a good marriage or you're not able to have good relationships with people, then you're not going to be productive pretty much anywhere else. You're just going to be a toxic person just kind of out there spreading toxicity. All right.
And there's almost nothing worse than being in a toxic relationship.
Right.
It is certainly better to be single than to be in a toxic relationship.
Right. Absolutely. So this week's discussion is actually going to be a pretty heavy one. All right. It's vows, dysfunction, trauma, and a blended family. And we got some stories to tell, about our experience that you guys will be able to laugh along.
Love, honor, and obey.
Yeah. It wasn't. They weren't funny at the time, but they are now.
I should have brought a soup spoon in here.
Yeah, you should have brought a soup spoon. We're going to be talking about that.
Well, the whole issue was we didn't have one.
Yeah,
so.
exactly. Okay. So we want to start out with vows. Okay. Vows are important because a vow actually is a covenant. When you make a vow, you do what we call cutting covenant. Now, there are different ways biblically to establish a covenant, and vows are one of them. One of the ways that and this kind of show the seriousness of covenantal relationship was the covenant that God cut with Abraham. If you guys remember the story of Abraham, it was God told Abraham to cut some animals into several different pieces, and then the Lord actually passed through those animal pieces as like a torch or in a pot, and it was something else. But really, what that represented was in the ancient Near East, one of the ways that you would cut covenant is you would do that very thing. You would have an animal sacrifice. You would cut the animals in two and set them in that pattern, and then both parties that were cutting the covenant would actually walk in between them. And actually, what it symbolized is that whoever violated that covenant would have to endure what the animals endured. In other words, they would be cut to pieces.
Oh, if we had to do Bible things these days.
Right. Okay. Now, if you remember the story, only God passed through that. Okay, and that kind of establishes the precedent. Just to kind of give you guys a little bit, that establishes the precedent for the Messiah, because Only God passed through it. So if that covenant was violated, then God Himself would have to suffer. So, and that's where, again, where we get the idea of the suffering servant. There's a lot of other weightier things in regards to Yeshua, Jesus. But that's my point being is that vows are absolutely important.
And it's not. I think this is gonna like go in the face of these people who say it's just a piece of paper. It's not a piece of paper. It's the words you say prior to signing that piece of paper that matter. You stand in covenant with this person before God.
Right.
Before God. Some people act like that is just not a thing.
Right. And in this society, that actually is the difference between living with someone communally, as couples often do, and actually being married. Okay. People. I've heard people liken it, and they'll say, "Well, this is wifey," and blah 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 blah. Well, in reality, it's not if you don't have that covenant established. I mean, even legally, they wouldn't recognize you. I mean, we've had stories of couples who separated, never got divorced. The other spouse moved on,
stayed with somebody for 20 years. He died, or that spouse died, and the spouse that they had not been with for 20 years
got all the benefits.
So, and the person who'd been in the house with him for 20 years got nothing, because that piece of paper still belonged to the first wife.
All right.
We have to stop self-sabotaging, and that's what we do. We convince ourselves that situations are not good for us because we don't understand how they work, or we feel like they're going to be restrictive.
Right.
I want to be able to do what I want to do when I want to do it. Well, honey, you got to ask yourself, what is it that you're wanting to do that your spouse would object to?
Yeah, and it also holds men and women to accountability, because if you got a live-in boyfriend or girlfriend or whatever the case may be, and you're calling them wifey and this, that, and the other, and stuff goes south, okay, then you can just leave.
Just pack up and go.
You just pack up and go. A marriage holds you legally.
That is one of the reasons a lot of people that I have talked to don't get married, because they say it's easier to get out if you're not married.
Right.
Why are you thinking about getting out? And if you are in the mindset that you may have to leave, then this is probably not the right relationship, or you're not doing it right. You're not looking for the right thing, or you're not doing it right when you get into a relationship.
Right. Yeah.
You don't go to a job thinking, shoot, I might have to quit this next week.
Right. Yeah, a lot of men in the red pill space, I've heard discussions where they say that it's safer for a man to not be married, other than the religious aspect of it. It's safer. And like she said, if you go into it with that mentality, you're already establishing divorce that's not going to work. You probably already know that the person that you're looking at establishing it with is not wife material or spouse material. Okay? Because again, for me, when I met her, we dated for a year, and then we got married.
We were engaged the whole year, though.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I pretty much knew, off the bat.
So for those of us who don't know us, we met November 5th. We decided we were going to be a couple November 9th. We met face to face for the first time November 17th. And before the end of November, we had gone half, or was it before the end of December?
It was before the end of December.
Before the end of December, we had gone half on a ketubah.
And for those that don't know, within Judaism, so when you guys get engaged, typically in the Western world, the guy takes you to a nice place. He bends down on one knee. Will you marry me? That's not how that's not how it works with us. What we do is we basically actually go out and buy what we call a wedding ketubah, which is our own marriage contract that has details in it, and the details can be as specific as the expectation that I expect her to do laundry on Mondays, or cook my eggs a certain way, or
it
whatever.
Doesn't say that, though.
It doesn't say that. Ours is simple. It says that. All right. See, ours says that we will obey all the laws of Moses and Israel.
But you can make yours as specific and as weird and outlandish as you want to. That's on you.
And so when we get engaged, our weddings are two-step. Okay, the engagement also requires a certificate of betrothal. It requires a bride price, and it requires basically a ceremony. And once we're engaged, See, when you guys get engaged, you can just say engagement is off. We're done.
Give me back my ring.
Give me back my ring. We can't do that. When we say we're engaged, it actually would require us to get a divorce to get out of the engagement aspect of it. It's 2 stages of the marriage. There's the betrothal, and then there's the consummation of the marriage, which is the actual marriage.
And that's because we don't take it as lightly as the Western world does.
Right.
We believe that this is what God wants us to do, and anything that God wants me to do, I'm going to do it to the best of my ability.
Correct.
Period.
Correct. So, vows are that serious. That is my point. Now, the law concerning vows, and I wanted to kind of go over it, is found in Numbers 30, and it's really important because it's going to add an extra measure to when your father, for example, when the father gives the bride away. You have that, and why it's important to receive the blessing of the parents. So it opens up. Numbers 30 says, Then Moses spoke to the heads of the tribes concerning the children of Israel, saying, This is the thing which the Lord has commanded. If a man makes a vow to the Lord, or swears an oath to bind himself by some agreement, he shall not break his word. He shall do according to all that proceeds out of his mouth. Or if a woman makes a vow to the Lord and binds herself by some agreement while in her father's house in her youth, and her father hears her vow, and the agreement by which she has bound herself, and her father holds his peace, then all her vows shall stand, and every agreement with which she has bound herself shall stand. But if her father overrules her on the day that he hears, then none of her vows nor her agreements by which she has bound herself shall stand. And the Lord will release her because her father overruled her. If indeed she takes a husband while bound by her vows, or by a rash utterance from her lips by which she bound herself, and her husband hears it and makes no response to her on the day that he hears it, then her vows shall stand, and her agreements by which she bound herself shall stand. But if her husband overrules her on the day that he hears it, he shall make void her vow which she took and what she uttered with her lips, by which she bound herself, and the Lord will release her. Also, any vow of a widow or a divorced woman by which she has bound herself shall stand against her. If she vowed in her husband's house, or bound herself by an agreement with an oath, and her husband heard it, and made no response to her, did not overrule it, then all her vows shall stand, and every agreement by which she bound herself shall stand. But if her husband truly made them void on the day he heard them, then whatever proceeded from her lips concerning her vows, or concerning the agreement binding her, it shall not stand. Her husband has made them void, and the Lord will release her. Every vow and every binding oath to afflict her soul, her husband may confirm it, or her husband may make it void. Now, if her husband makes no response, whatever to her from day to day, then he confirms all her vows or all the agreements that bind her. He confirms them because he made no response to her on the day that he heard them. But if he does make them void after he has heard them, then he shall bear her guilt. These are the statutes which the Lord commanded Moses between a man and his wife, and between a father and his daughter in her youth in her father's house. Now, what several points are important about this? Number one,
I can hear the rules turning. So a woman can't make a decision without a man.
Hold on, no. Several points. Number one, it says, men, if you make a vow, you're stuck. You're stuck with
Nobody overrules yours.
Nobody overrules yours, right? This is part of what being the head is about, all right? We kings, right? She gotta submit to me. Whatever vow you make, it's binding to you, okay? Now, I get it. There's some of you that's gonna say, well, Yeshua said don't make vows. Let your yes be yes and your no be no. Yeah, he said that, but again, he's not gonna violate this law, because if he does, then he would be guilty of sin, and if he's sinful, then he can't be the Messiah, now can he? So what he's actually saying is, in reality, at the beginning, it should have been that your word was so good that you didn't have to make a vow. However,
not us.
Unfortunately, we live in a world of suffering, brokenness, and sin. So there are vows that are necessary, and marriage is one of those vows. What's very important too is that notice that while the wife or the daughter is in the father's house, the father can annul her vows. So if the woman makes a foolish vow in her father's house and he hears it, he can say, I annul that vow. Okay?
And just think about it. If today, put it in today's context, if we live by that, for the 16-year-old girl who falls in love with the 18-year-old boy, and he's the best thing in the world, and daddy, I love him, and I'm going to marry him. And if legally in her state she can go out and marry him. And the parents can't do anything about it today. Biblically, not the same.
Not the
Now
same.
she comes back in 2 years and she's like, oh my God, daddy, I got 2 kids and he's gone. And daddy says, well, I knew this was going to happen all along. Biblically, back in those days, it wouldn't have happened all along. Because daddy could have said, this is absolutely not a thing, and it wouldn't have been a thing.
It would not have been a thing. Absolutely correct. But I also want you guys to see the transition here. Notice that it's the father first who has the authority to annul the vows, and then what happens? She becomes a wife. So that authority is passed on to the husband. That's what the father giving the daughter away really represents at a wedding. The father is saying, I have raised her and been a covering for her, a protecting
I'm protecting her from even herself.
From even herself. And I have this authority to annul vows that she makes foolishly. I'm now transitioning this and I'm entrusting this to you. This is also why it was important for the man to get the parents' blessing, to go to the father. One of the things that me and Sharhonda did many years ago when we got married, her father was not able to attend our wedding. All right. And I had gotten her mother's approval, but I hadn't gotten her father's approval. Okay. And that bothered me because I knew that biblically it was a thing and it was out of order until I could get it resolved. Okay. So several years back, we finally got to go visit her dad in Fort Lauderdale. And one of the things that I did was I bought us new rings. I took him out to dinner and I asked for his permission to get his blessing for his daughter because he could not make it. And he was so honored by it. And we renewed our vows there at the restaurant. It was a nice restaurant too, but
and it was not just daddy. It was like my aunts and the cousins. Yeah. It was like a whole gang of people there.
But I really want to say that even if you didn't do it right and you're in a relationship, it's never too late to go back and rectify mistakes or things that were missed. We did a lot of things backwards without guidance in the very beginning.
We lived together before we got married, and let me tell you.
Yeah, it was rough.
It was not the thing to do.
That first year was really rough.
I would never do that again.
And I'll tell you that after that first year when we did get married, it seemed like things just started flowing.
Things started falling into place.
Yeah, exactly. So
that and I think it is a lot of you who are believers. If you don't know this concept, you should. The more you know, the more you're held accountable.
Right.
It's like if your toddler stands up on your table, you treat that whole differently than if your 11-year-old jumps up on your table.
Right.
Two different concepts because those two different people are being held to two degrees of accountability because of their age and what they know.
Right.
So the more you know, the more you're held to that degree. And we knew better.
Right.
We knew that this was not the way that the Father wanted us to do it. But it was for us, it was best for the situation we were in because I was moving 3.5 hours to come here. And we could have still done it differently. There's no saying we couldn't have.
Yeah.
We made choices, and I'm gonna tell you now.
We got our licks.
The belt for those choices.
We took our licks like grown-ups.
Not always like grown-ups.
Yeah,
I ain't never took a whooping and didn't cry.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, we took our licks.
So we took them.
The point not to be missed though is that it's very important to either A, do things the right way, or B, make a repentance and make a change, make a repair. There's a verse in the scripture that is used commonly within the church, and the verse says, "Peace, peace to him that was far and him that is near." Okay, and commenting on that, the sages say that peace, peace to him that is far is the person that is backslidden. There's a double portion of peace allotted to him to return back to God. Okay, and again, that's what a repentance is. When you repent, it's not just something that you do in word. You don't just say that I'm sorry. You do a 180. You actually turn away from the thing that you are doing that is sin, and you turn back to God. If you're turning away from something, you're turning back to something. So the concept of repentance in the church is a bit skewed, but the reality of it is that's what it is. It's a correction in behavior or correction in your pattern to rectify brokenness, if that makes sense. Okay, but back to vows. Okay, so traditionally, the traditional marriage vow is the pastor gets up and he'll say, "Do you take blank to be your wedded husband or wife, to live together after God's ordinance in the state of matrimony? Will you love him or her, comfort him or her, and keep him or her in sickness and in health, forsaking all others? Keep yourself only unto him or her, till death do you part." And he'll ask the wife, and she'll say, "I do, right?
I do, I will.
All right, and,
I am.
yeah, and then he'll do the same thing to the husband, and the husband will say, "I do." And if I put my wedding tape up when the pastor was doing ours, I was saying that I do, but at the same time I was trying to get the ring off my finger. The ring on my finger was my finger had swelled up. All right? We got the ring months earlier.
We got the ring a year
earlier. When
his didn't fit no more.
Because my wife cooked real well, so I put on a little marriage suit weight, okay? And when we go up there, she puts the ring on my finger and she just jams it on. And it is instant.
In my defense, I did not wear my glasses and I didn't have contacts. So I couldn't read his face. I couldn't see what he was saying because y'all, I'm blind as all get out. I could not see that the look on his face was, I thought the tears were because he's like, oh my God, he's so emotional because he's marrying the woman of his dream.
No.
But
Handy. Handy facilitates crime.
So I just kept, I'm like, get this ring on this finger.
Yeah, exactly. And then it popped on, and then we couldn't get it off. We had to use all kind of oil and gut stuff to get it off with or whatever. But
wearing glasses till you wear it, it don't matter. Sometimes you just gotta see. But anyway.
But nonetheless, the point that I was trying to make is that we said that we do, and what I would like to point out in the vows is there is a piece in the vow that we say, and we hear it all the time, but we don't take note of it. It says, I'm going to read it to you here. Will you love him or her, comfort him or her, honor him or her in sickness and in health? Now, what's peculiar about that piece is notice that the sickness comes before it. Why doesn't it say in health and in sickness? It says in sickness and in health, actually inferring that at the marriage altar, you're already sick. What is that all about? Okay. In reality, it is a picture and a mirror of what we've been studying with the first fall. Okay. That mankind fell. And, I was talking to a brother of mine yesterday. He's going to get a kick out of this if he's watching, because me and him was having a deep spiritual conversation. And he was actually talking to me about Buddha. And he was talking about how, in Buddhism, they believe that the human condition is suffering. All right. And that aspect of it is right, whether you're Buddhist, Christian, Muslim, or Islamic, or whatever. Okay. But basically, we are born into a world that's already in a fallen state. Okay. So we are living in corruption. We're born into suffering. But to take it to the next level, our sages teach that a man without a wife is as homeless. Let me repeat that for you. They teach you that a man without a wife is a homeless cat. All right. And why? Right? And why is that? Okay. Because women scripturally are considered the house. All right. The Hebrew letter bet. Let me see if I can pull it up here for you.
You don't have a screen up there. You bet off just.
Well, no. All I got to do is let me see here. Let me see if I can bring it in for y'all.
I'm gonna just sip my water while you do it.
Bring it in. There it goes. All right. There it goes. Let me scroll it up so you can see it. There we go. So that is the Hebrew letter bet. And as you notice, it has a top, a back, and a bottom. but it's open on the left side. And the reason that is that letter bet is the letter that we use to represent a house. In fact, the term for house is bait. Like when we say Beit El, it means the house of God. All right, and they teach that a woman is a house based off of Exodus 19:3. In Exodus 19:3, it says that God spoke to Moses and said, "Speak to the house of Jacob, the sons of Israel." So they said that the house of Jacob is the women, and the sons of Jacob is the men. Of Israel is the men. And so what one of my rabbis taught me about the letter bet and about a woman is that the woman that letter has a roof. So the woman also represents a covering. It has a back. She also represents a backing to the man, and it also has a bottom, and she represents a foundation so that the man can walk from right to left. Right, Hebrew is written from right to left, and that's a sign of righteousness, that the man can walk righteously. So the woman acts as a covering, a backing, and a foundation to the man as well, so that he can move forward in life. And without the woman, you're homeless. You don't have a house. You're a homeless dude, man. So spiritually homeless, so to speak, or whatever. And that is the condition of sickness that we're talking about. All right, that we're coming together. Most times, the two parties that are coming together in this society come from broken backgrounds. A lot of times they come from previous relationships, or they've had childhood trauma, or trauma, or both. And so you already sick coming to the altar, and the union is supposed to facilitate healing.
You want something because you didn't bring any of yours.
Excuse me.
May.
Throat got a little dry.
Yummy.
Yeah, yummy. The union is supposed to bring about and facilitate healing, and that's kind of the point. But going back to the first marriage that we've talked about. Oh, I'm sorry. The other piece on vows is, again, forsaking all others. Forsaking all others isn't just limited to you looking at other or going after other mates. It means you are putting this spouse, or your spouse, not this one, because this one's mine. Don't do it to yourself. Putting your spouse, it means that you're putting your spouse first, above all else. That's above mom, above dad, above even kids. Okay, the pecking order is God, spouse, children, parents. All right, it ain't the other way around. I know parents get bent out of shape about this, but I was the one that got blah 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 blah. Okay, there's a special blessing in the Torah that says we are to honor our mother and our father. We live long in the land. But the reality of it is, the scriptures say that a man will leave his own mother and father and cleave to his wife. Cleave meaning hold on tightly. Okay, you're not getting away. Blood in, blood out. You stuck like Chuck.
After 20 years.
After 20 plus years.
Well, I don't have the energy to get out.
All right. So I kind of want to touch on that before I go into dysfunction, okay? Because going back to that first marriage, what happens is dysfunction enters into that first marriage, and as we talked about with Adam and Eve, the original violation was that she did not forsake all others, okay? She listened to another voice. She hearkened to the voice of the snake, okay? It's the first episode of adultery in the Bible, and it really is the first sin, okay? She listened to another voice. There was the adultery that led her to do something that God said not to eat something that God said not to eat. So
then she dragged her husband.
Well, I ain't gonna say she dragged him.
No, she didn't drag him.
Because he was asleep on watch.
He woke up, he yawned, he like, oh, you eating?
Right.
What you eating?
Right.
Oh, I'm eating that apple. And I know God said don't eat the apple, but man, this apple is fresh. Yeah, I'm telling you,
the snake put me on game.
Anything like it.
The snake put me on game, for real.
The snake that was talking, which back then they did. He's like, yeah, this is a great apple. He said it's a good apple. It's a good apple. Think about it. That's not a big deal.
All right. But here's the thing. Once death and entropy enters the world, if you notice that the curse that the woman gets deals with bearing children and pain and that type of thing.
Ooh, Lord, me and Eve got to talk.
The very next episode of something sinful is dysfunction within her sons. We have the episode of Cain and Abel. So it goes from a relationship of dysfunction to the children who are now dysfunctional, and it will spread. And I'm going to show you how it then will become community. It will impact the community.
So honestly, as much as we like to say it, and we say it now, what you do in your house is not just your business.
Correct.
Because the people you raise in your house, the way you raise them, they go out there and live the way you raised them.
Or
so
did not raise.
Or did not raise. So what you do in your house, that does affect other people.
Correct. It will impact the community. All right. And so we have the episode of Cain and Abel. You guys all know that particular episode, okay? The big question that we got to ask ourselves is that obviously this is not something that was like a one-time deal. I mean, when we're reading the Bible, I really want people to stop thinking in the then this happened next immediately and start thinking in the okay, as the family went along, obviously some kind of jealousy or issue was going on between the sons, and it culminates with Cain murdering Abel.
Because they weren't toddlers when this happened.
But
you don't hear every instance of their upbringing.
Right. The Bible caps the peaks. It doesn't give you all the details in the film. Correct. But the thing that is important to recognize in that whole scenario is that neither Adam or Eve are mentioned in the account. All right. It isn't until after the murder that then they beget another son. All right. And I'm simply saying that to say that though it's speculative, it is a rational and reasonable thought to say that their dysfunction, and part of it was they continued those patterns into familial life. Adam went to sleep at the wheel as the head in the very beginning. His wife hearkened to another voice. All right. And then the sin happens. Same thing with Cain and Abel. They're doing what they do.
And the Bible specifically says that sons get their identities from their fathers. So whatever is going on between these sons, either the father did something or didn't do something. And if we go by Adam's his past, it's probably that he didn't. It's probably that he didn't, or he loved one son too much. We all speculate, but we have to know that if there was a father present in this house, he went to sleep at the wheel if he has sons that one is willing to kill the other one.
Right.
Something went wrong. And that is dysfunction. And that is the state of many of our households today.
Correct. Absolutely. So now we have Cain killing Abel. In the course of time, it goes on. Mankind, of course, reproduces. And then you come down in the very next episode is communal dysfunction. And that is the episode of Noah. By the time you get to Noah and the flood story, the world is falling into gross sin. And in reality, it says that, and the reason why I point out the dysfunction, the Bible is specific when it's talking about Noah. It says that Noah was righteous in his generation. Now, why does it make the distinction in his generation?
Because the rest of his generation was whoop.
The sages say that the reason why it says in his generation is that because if Noah had lived in any other generation, he would not have been considered righteous.
He would have been a scallywag.
Correct. So that's why I say in his. So it's comparing him. It's saying stuff was so bad that even Noah was considered the only righteous person. Okay. So within his perimeter, there's dysfunction, right? And we know that there's dysfunction because post him coming off the boat, there's the episode with Ham and him being drunk and that type of thing, right? He liked alcohol. Okay.
How far into dysfunction do you have to get for daughters to think that it's appropriate to be with their father when he's drunk?
Well, that's Lot. That's Lot.
That's Lot. You're right.
That's Lot coming on down the line. I was actually going to go there because the dysfunction.
Did I read your mind?
Yeah, you did. The dysfunction continued into the community, even with Abraham. The whole episode of Abraham, Lot, and Sodom and Gomorrah. Lot is a relative of his, and like she just said, post Sodom and Gomorrah, Lot winds up sleeping with his daughter.
Question.
Mm-hmm.
would you then say that this whole difference we have with Islam is at the very root of it a dysfunctional family?
Absolutely. 1,000,000%. 1,000,000%. What is going on in the Middle East is two brothers fighting
It's a
because of
family fight.
familial dysfunction that has gone on for thousands of years. Okay, it did not start in 1948, and I don't mean to get off of a beaten path, but the reality of it is that both of these groups are sons of Abraham, and they're essentially fighting. And that dysfunction, if you read carefully through the Bible, you'll see it. Okay, but getting back to Lot, what happens with Lot post Sodom and Gomorrah is his daughters wind up sleeping with him, and they father two sons, Ammon and Moab, which is where we get the Ammonites and the Moabites, which is the story of Ruth and a bunch of other stuff. So my point being on what Sharon said, let me bring that all the way back home to modern times. Okay, we live in a time now where we have dysfunctional relationships. We have what we in the black community, baby mama and baby daddy, and they don't get along. Okay, and they're fighting and they're struggling with just life issues. And I'm going to hit home and talk about the hood. Okay, because guess what? For a time, I lived in the hood. All right, I lived out in the streets and that type of thing. All right, but you got baby mama situations, baby daddy situation. You have parent households that are dysfunctional to the nth degree. Okay, then children are brought into that. The children are raised up by the women hating their fathers. You guys know the story. All right.
And disclaimer, we're not saying this is everybody. We're not pointing a mirror at you. Get out your feelings. If you thought this is about you, you're wrong. Because we're not thinking about any one particular person.
Correct.
We're talking about the situation as a whole.
Just as a whole, okay? And again, I'm going to hit on this, and I'm going to hit on it from the black community because that's the community that's closest to me, okay? It applies across the board. Make no mistake about it. Culturally it may be different, but the same principle applies. So you get these homes that are broken and that are toxic. Okay, now there are situations where two parents can co-parent and it be better than not having two parents. But by and large, a lot of what I'm talking about is the majority and not the minority. All right. You get these households where there's dysfunction. The children grow up in these households. They act out. They're overly impulsive. The men are overly feminine. In their emotions, that type of thing. And then what happens? Then the children grow up, and you see them within our communities, and a great many of them get involved in violent crime, drugs, prostitute. The sky is the limit. And when they get involved in that, guess what? It is impacting the community at that point. All right. So this idea, and I've heard it said in our ranks, well, we raised them the best they can, and they made the choices that they made. They can make a choice, but I have to go back to still, how did you raise them? Okay. Because if you understand that what your child does directly impacts the community. For me and Sharhonda, when we came together, and we're going to talk about this today, we were a blended family, okay? And one of the things that we established early on was that the idea of a step parent is a no-no, okay? In the Bible, there are no step parents. There's no word for adopted parent or step parent, okay? Jesus was technically adopted by Joseph, but you never see the scriptures say he was the adopted son of Joseph.
Or his stepdaddy.
Okay? Jacob adopted Ephraim and Manasseh from Joseph into the 12 tribes, but it was never considered stepdaddy, and they were considered as native born, okay? So the idea of a step parent, get it out of your head.
I wish our communities would stop using that, because what it does is it makes the children feel that there is a distinction. Correct. And there shouldn't be.
Correct.
And most times, because if you keep it in your head, you look at your children as being somewhat closer to you than this child that is your stepchild. When right. In reality, the best way to raise them is just they're all your children.
Correct.
They all have these different personalities, these different, and it's hard for the children.
Correct.
That's why we counsel anyone who is headed for divorce and they have children, try every option available to you to see if your marriage is salvageable before you divorce, because it's not just you. The divorce does not just impact you. Children of divorce carry trauma for the rest of their lives.
Correct.
Whether we like it or not.
Correct. Now some helpful points that I want to bring up in regards to being a blended family and being that parent. All right. One of the things that drives me up a wall, absolutely up a wall, in a situation like that is where, let's say you have a woman in the situation, her and her baby dad did not work out. She brings a new man into the house. This guy is 100% a great guy. He's putting his resources in the house. He's putting his money up, and that's her expectation. And I've heard women say it. Me and my kids are a package deal. Okay, but the child does something that's out of pocket, and the woman says, and the baby daddy, no man can put their hands on my kid.
Or I discipline my child.
I discipline my child. Okay. Well, I'm just going to say it. If you want it to be that, then you should have stayed with that person and been in a relationship and not the new guy. Okay. Because if the new guys, I'm going to tell you, for me, it was a no-brainer. We had this discussion. If my resources are going to the house, into their livelihood, and into them, I'm putting clothes on their back, I'm putting food in their mouth, I'm doing for them what their biological daddy wouldn't do, then when they do something that's out of pocket, I'm going to bring the smoke.
My thought is, if you are going to say to me that I am going to take the role of this child's parent, which regardless of how you look at it, that's what it is. Because if I'm in the house with this child, then I have to be the parent. Am I feeding mine and not him? That's not how that works. So if I'm going to parent this child, then you don't get to decide what part you're going to restrict me on how I can parent.
In other words, you can only have one head in the house. You can't be outside of the house and try to dictate what goes on in that house and your house just because you were the sperm donor or you were the person that carried the child. All right. If that's something that you can't do, then I would suggest that you wait till your children are grown and gone to date.
Because honestly, that is a lot of that thinking is why there are men, and I'm not excusing anything that these red pill buffoons toss out there. But one of the things that they hang their hats on is the fact that they can come into a home, they can take care of that child, they can spend time with that child, they can be the role model for that child, but what the outside dad says goes. And no man wants to be in that situation. I would not be in that situation.
Right.
You're not going to tell me how to run my house because your child lives in it.
Right.
You can talk to her and figure out how y'all get back together and do this and let me go on about my way. Correct. If I'm going to be a parent and a functional member of this household, then I'm going to be 100% in my role.
Correct.
I'm not going to let somebody outside diminish that. And that's one of the problems we have as Black moms. I'm going to say it and you don't have to like it out. I'm 53. I don't care what you think.
Right.
In Black households, this is one of the biggest issues. We will tell a man, this is a package deal. Me, Lil Raphael, and Lil Raymond, we are a package deal. Right. You take all of us or you take none of us. So the man who wants you has to put on his father pants. Because you're telling him whether you want to wear them father pants or not. If you want to be with me, you got to wear them. Okay, ma'am. Let him put on the father pants and be 100% the father. You don't get to tell him to pay for his saxophone, his stuff for football, drop him off and pick him up and pray with him and teach him this and teach him that, be a chauffeur and all that good stuff. But then I told him he don't have to do what you said do. You don't tell him. I tell him what to do. You don't get to tell him what to do. No, ma'am, because I'm gonna tell you both what to do.
Right.
Remove yourselves from my presence.
Right.
because we believe in a biblical, cohesive house.
Right.
And you will never have a cohesive house with that.
Right. That's also why it's also highly recommended that you make better choices with who you have children with, and whoever you have children with, you stick with that person, if at all possible.
If possible.
So that your kids are raised in a household with.
And we know that that's not possible
We
in
know
all
that that's
instances.
not optimal in all instances.
But if it's not possible,
again,
then you have to not be Captain. I'm just going to watch and police everything.
Yeah, we're going from the optimal to the inoptimal, okay? Because biblically we read this stuff, but that's not the way that life is. Again, like I said at the beginning of this series, life is fluid and it's changing, and everyone's situation is not that. So we're trying to speak from optimal to, okay, this is what our situation is. What do we do in this situation? How do we straighten out the mess that we've made, so to speak?
Moms, what you can do is you can decide today if that man is the man that you want to be your head and the head over your children. If you don't, or you have a doubt, then he shouldn't be in the house.
Right.
It's that simple. It doesn't matter what your desires are. Right. Because you're in a situation now where your desires have to take a second seat to your parenting your children. And if you have decided that you want to bring someone into their life as a father figure, you cannot expect him to give 100% as a father with your restrictions.
Correct.
That's not how it works.
Correct.
And that's why most men do not want to be in relationships with women with children. They don't want the father who pays child support every other month to be able to tell them, well, no, he's not gonna wear that. He's not gonna play on that team, and he's not gonna. If you want to make all the decisions for your child, then be a man and be in the house with your child.
Right. Absolutely.
It's that simple.
Absolutely. Getting back to this idea of adoption biblically. So in the ancient Near East, when a child was engrafted or adopted, and that's what I kind of came up with, is that rather than looking at it from a step parent perspective, look at it from an engrafted parent perspective. Okay, the situation did not work out to be ideal, but you can still make it shake, and you can still have a really good situation if you make the corrections, so to speak. So in the ancient Near East, when a child was engrafted into a family, then that child became as one native born. He was not looked
not
at.
a stepchild.
Not a stepchild, okay? That's why, like in Romans, when you're looking at the engrafting of the olives into the olive tree, it talks about the natural branches. Yes, there are native born Hebrews, Jews that can trace their familial line back. But there's also us that are engrafted in, okay? We're all engrafted into an olive tree. It's not a different branch. In fact, it refers to us as wild olive branches, right? We've been uncultivated, so they graft us back into the tree. The unique thing about an olive tree, and when you graft in something into it, no matter what branch you graft into it, it will become it's an olive. It ain't going to produce apples or bananas if you engraft it in. It becomes olives. So it's the same thing, okay? And
one more thing when you get done.
And I'm going to just talk about it briefly. One of the things that actually I had to recognize, it almost destroyed us when our son passed away, was the enemy spoke to me in that perspective and had me start to think, well, this was my biological son. It wasn't her biological son. So the gravity of loss that I was feeling was greater because she couldn't relate because all of her biological children were still alive. But in reality, me and her had a huge blow up, and she was like, how dare you? When I met her, my son was 2 years old. She used to wash him in the sink sometimes.
At the hotel.
She come up for the weekend. She would put him and wash him in the sink. But I had to get out of that mentality and realize that she's an engrafted parent, and just as I'm an engrafted parent to her children, but we're not step parents. I raised her boys and my boys together as my own, and I still claim them, as my own sons. But so kind of getting back to that, so that child became as one native born, and they had the same rights, responsibilities and privileges as the son that wasn't adopted. I wanted to say that. You had something?
Um, it's been almost 3 years, and I'm still. Just give me a minute. It's still. It's hard to talk about him sometimes in the everyday conversation. Um, as far as being and I was a bonus mom, and I'm gonna be BJ's mom until the Lord takes me home, because I was in his life since he was 2 years old. He was 6 years old when he came to live with us full time. I homeschooled him. I cleaned as much of his vomit as I did the rest of them.
And she hates cleaning vomit.
And everything I did for mine, I did for him. There was no difference. I had knucklehead boys galore, period. And no one can tell me that I would hurt more if he had been my biological son, because I cannot imagine hurting more. I can't imagine that him not coming from my womb makes any difference with my love, because there's still a hole in my heart and a hole in my life because he's gone. And we have to stop. We have to stop thinking everybody should love their spouse's children like I loved him. You should feel like you would give your life for that child just like you would your own. If you can't do that, then you shouldn't parent these babies, because they deserve parents who want to be their parents, parents who are going to love them unconditionally. If you can't love a child that your spouse brings in, then you would definitely not be a candidate for adopting a child.
Right.
If you feel that you can only love a child 100% if it's your seed, then you don't need to be in the house with someone who has children that are not yours. That is just not for you,
Right.
because it's not fair to the children most of all.
Right. Right. All right. And then to kind of bring all of this home, when both of us have been through divorces. Okay. So when we first got together, we're talking about trauma here. A lot of and then we're going to go into story time. We're going to end with some laughter. You guys are going to get a kick out of these stories. Okay. A lot of a lot of trauma that we experience in our divorces and in our past relationships and in our childhood, we brought right into this marriage in the very beginning with no counsel, no help, no guidance whatsoever. Because I'll be quite frank with you, at the time, the pastor that we had made a statement that he did not get involved in the personal lives of his congregants. So a lot of what we dealt with, we had to learn the hard way, on our own. That actually included us saying things to hurt each other. My wife she knew that I had a real bone to pick with her exes when I first met her, because she had told me how they were. So she would say, we would get into arguments, and she would say, "You acting just like my ex," even if, and it was just a dig to hurt me. Okay, and we came to.
I'm gonna be honest. I'd have an ounce of submission in me, and I wasn't about to, because I had been married twice before, and in both those marriages, I had to wear the pants per se. And in my mind, that's how I knew that things were going to be okay, because I did them myself. When you don't have anybody to depend on to do things, you learn to become self-sufficient. And you also learn, if you're not very careful, that you don't ever give anybody the chance to mess things up again. You continue to be self-sufficient. going forward. Because your thought is, I still have children who are younger, they're not adults, and regardless of what happens on the other side, I'm going to be the parent that's here. And so I have to make sure that the bills are paid and all that stuff, regardless of whether I have help or not. And when you are married and you don't have help, you really don't look for help to come in a relationship. So it's hard for you to relinquish that kind of control when that kind of control has been life-saving to you in situations.
Right. So it so we had that going on. We had an episode, and it culminated with a soup spoon. That's the soup spoon story we're about to tell you. Okay. So we were downtown feeding the homeless. We would normally cook a big pot of chili or soup or something and take it downtown and just pop the lift gate of our truck open and just feed the homeless right there. Okay. Uh, but mind you, all of the junk and the arguments and the trauma that we had been going on since we had got together. Okay. We had no guidance. We had no way to manage that. So it just was what it was. All right. So when we get to this place where we're feeding the homeless, my wife notices that we don't have a soup spoon. We left the soup spoon at home, which is about 20 to 30 minutes away.
With traffic, yeah.
With traffic, yeah. So she's like, we have no way to feed the homeless. So I was like, I tell you what, you stay here. I'll run home real quick because this is fairly short distance away. I'll get the ladle and I'll be back. All right. So I go home. I get the soup spoon. In the midst of me getting the soup spoon, the homeless are just piling up around the truck because they sense food.
And they know that because they're used to us by that time.
Right.
And so they know that we're there to bring them a meal. And if you know that somebody's there to bring you a meal, they usually line up. So that's what they did. And I started feeling so guilty and so bad because they were lined up. There were some of them that had pushed their wheelchairs over, but they had stood there so long they were now sitting in their wheelchairs. And I'm like, this is taking too long. And I don't know who was with me, but whoever it was like, why don't you just use a cup? And I was like, that's a great idea. Use a cup.
So go ahead.
So I used the cup.
She used the cup.
And I started feeding the people.
She's using the cup as a scooper. She feeds the people. By the time I get back, there's no more feeding the people. They've eaten already.
They've all eaten, and they're all sitting down with their.
And I'm hot at this moment, but it's like the straw that broke the camel's back. Because at this point, like she just told you, I don't believe that she's submitting to me. I'm trying to lead. I'm trying to do all this. We're bumping heads, okay? And I felt like she sent me on this wild goose chase to get this doggone soup spoon. And then I get back, I can't even do the part of the ministry or whatever. So we get into a big blow up right there at the spot. And this blow up, it's almost like we threw up all of the stuff that we had been holding up until that point. To the place of where she was like, I'm done. When I get back to the house, I'm packing my stuff up and I'm leaving. All right. And it was Jacob was with you.
My ex-husband was with us.
Her ex-husband was with us because we was all supposed to be friends and doing all this, that, and the other. And
he and the kids, because we were teaching the kids that this is we were trying to do the co-parenting, the functional co-parenting thing, showing the kids that all of the parents could get together and do something productive and it could work. There were just forces against it.
Right. So
because he heard me say that when we get back to the house, I'm packing my stuff and I'm leaving. So by the time we got home, he was parked on our street waiting for me.
Waiting and willing, baby.
To pack my stuff up.
He was waiting and willing to get her back.
And now there was nothing going on between us. I guess he just figured, okay, well, this is over. So we'll just pick up where we left off and go on.
So we get back to how we all had a falling out with a soup spoon. We crack up at it now like, did we really argue over a soup spoon? and we laughed, but it was not funny.
It was not funny that day.
So I got this friend named Terrence.
Terrence.
If any of you guys have met Terrence, you know who I'm talking about. He is a gigantic Marine. Terrence is
like just raw.
He's just like a wall of muscle, okay? And he was with us as well. So when
I was like this wide.
So what he did was, this is crazy, okay? But to this day, I gotta thank Terrence, because Terrence actually helped save our relationship that
because
day.
when I get that mad and I intend to do something, I would have done it just to prove the point that I could do it. I would have packed all my stuff and been out.
You're right.
Just because I said I would.
And what Terrence did was, when we got back to the house, she was packing all her stuff. She had all her stuff in bags and everything.
I'm packing it. He's throwing it out. I'm throwing it in. He's throwing it out. It was the most unsuccessful packing.
Yeah, but what Terrence did was, he stood in our doorway.
He sat
in our doorway.
At the door.
Yeah.
So we couldn't open the door. You have to go through him to get out of the room.
And he told us, I'm not going to let you guys throw your relationship away. You guys, regardless of the difficulties you have, been an inspiration to me. And for me, if you all don't make it, nobody can. So if you're going to quit and go, you got to have to go through me. And he literally meant that.
And he just sat there. And I'm like, I'm supposed to move it. And I'm going to be honest with y'all, I thought about the window.
Anything to get away from me. See what I'm saying? You see how you see?
It's easier to get out that 2-story window than to get past here.
Right.
Oh my goodness.
But we sat there all evening. X eventually got
he got tired of waiting.
He left. Yeah.
And Terrence, he sat there and he said, "Y'all gonna sit here? You can sit here and not look at each other, or you can sit here and talk it out, but you gonna sit here."
Right.
And so we ended up, the argument kind of fizzled out, and then we ended up talking. And honestly, that never would have happened had Terrence not sat at that door. I've gotten better over the years, but I can take accountability for my stuff.
Likewise.
I was a hothead, and I like to prove a point. You were not gonna say I was not a woman of my word, whether that word was right or wrong. Okay, if I said it, I was gonna do it, even if it was stupid.
Right.
And I intended to pack and leave him that day. Now I hadn't thought about what was going to happen tomorrow. I was just leaving today, and I'm so thankful to Terrence that he saw something in us that I was too angry to see right then. I was, and honestly, the reason I think that this blew up so badly, so large, is because we had not learned the skill of effective communication with each other. We were not communicating the things that we didn't like or the things that bothered us. We were swallowing it. And eventually, just like a balloon, it popped.
Yeah, which is another point. When you have trauma in a relationship, being quiet for the sake of peace does not necessarily facilitate healing.
Because it will come out.
Okay. Again, a marriage is like a garden. What you plant in it, when it grows up, it will determine what kind of fruit you're going to have. Okay. And we were planting some bad seeds.
Well, we were planting Johnson grass.
Yeah.
You hear me? Mississippi Johnson grass.
Yeah. So like you said, we started learning how to communicate, and we took a no nonsense approach to it at that point.
That was when we made the do's and don'ts.
We made our own list of do's and don'ts. And
if you haven't done that, and you are having the problem that we had, you're bumping heads and you're getting mad and you're saying things that you know will hurt your spouse, I suggest, or the spouse is doing the same, I suggest that you make this list. Everyone we've counseled, almost everyone we've counseled that had these issues, we would have them make this list. We made a list of things we absolutely 1000% will not say to each other, no matter how angry we get. These are just off limits. Take them out of your vocabulary.
Right. This is what we call the do's and the don'ts. We took divorce off the table. We said divorce is never an option for us. I was able to communicate to her, because that was something that I would say, I'm leaving and this, that, and the other. Okay. and I was able to communicate to her, the things that she would say to hurt me, and likewise, and we started working from there. Okay, and like I said, we did a lot by trial and error, um, and here we are, 20 years later. And again, I believe that God sent people along like Terrence and others to keep us together so that He could bring us to this moment, so that we could be sharing with you all that our marriage did not start out, our relationship did not start out
biblically,
heaven on earth or whatever. Okay,
it didn't start out biblically.
We started out with dysfunction. Okay, this story time is going to be about a lot of dysfunction, but we were able to walk through it and learn what we needed to be where we are now. Now we're in a highly functional marriage. Now you can't drag me away.
Now we still have disagreements.
We do.
But our disagreements are discussions.
Yeah.
Now sometimes I can still get a little.
They might get a little.
I get a little wrong. Every now and then I get a little wrong.
But the point.
But for the most part.
But the point, we ain't having soup spoons no more. No, we're not having that no more. Okay, we
the majority of our disagreements we talk out, and we don't have as many disagreements as we used to at all, because we've spent 20 years learning each other and 20 years making an effort. Because you can spend 20 years with a person and not know a thing about them because you just coaxed through the 20 years. But we've actually actively made the effort to learn each other.
Right. Again, that the point about being silent, it goes back to the vows. If the husband hears a foolish vow and he's silent, then the vow is binding. It actually afflicts him, it says, So it's the same thing. If you're in a relationship and your wife is doing something or your husband is doing something and you're silent about it, you're not communicating it to him, then all you're doing is allowing whatever is there that you don't like to fester and grow. All right, and it eventually will produce something. Children dysfunction. We had episodes of children dysfunction. We had our oldest boy decided one day that he was going to curse his mom, and I told him he had to get out of my house because regardless of how he felt about me, I felt like his mom had been there even when his natural daddy wasn't. All right. So
and now he's always in our house.
And he's great.
His little mini-me's always in our house.
So I'm gonna let my wife tell you the story of what she did or whatever, because that day was horrific too. That was a huge argument. He left. He went back. She's from Cape Girardeau.
He went back and he ended up living with my mom, and I was heartbroken because that was my son. And the truth of the matter is, all of the dysfunction he was dealing with was a result of my decisions. And I take full accountability for that. My children's reactions were to the fact that I was ending not one, but the second marriage and going into a third one. And that is a lot to put children through. I'm just letting you know. If you worry about your kids being dysfunctional because of it, they will be. Therapy. I didn't learn that lesson soon enough. So I was writing as a mama.
Yes, because we were so worried about him because he was out there.
As a mama,
he not only left, but he was acting out. Okay, so we were worried about him, and we understood that the police basically was like, well, he's 16, he make his own decision or whatever the case may be. But we was genuinely worried that he would be out there and something would happen to him. My wife would sit on the couch and she would cry. She would just bawl tears like, he doesn't love me. He cursed me. He went out here. He'd rather be with his biological dad. His biological dad wouldn't, worth the skin he was printed on. And so here's what she did. One of the things that she did that was hilarious.
I wrote scripture in the lining of his clothes.
She was doing his laundry
with a permanent marker, and I still use those markers now. That's why I have an affinity for them. They're the Sharpie fine points, and if you write the scripture in the seam, nobody thinks to look in the seam of their clothes. And I've told other mamas to do this, and there's one mom in particular that I gave this information to that just gave us a praise report, which I'm not going to say what it was about because it's not my story. But she gave me a praise report about that daughter that we had been praying about for years. But I wrote scripture in the lining of his clothes.
Yeah, when she would do it, he would bring his laundry for her to do his laundry. She just flip his pants inside out and just get to write down scriptures. He wrote the word of God. He had no idea. He's putting his pants on. He's putting the word of God on him. And eventually, he had a conversation with you. And what happened?
Eventually, he came to me and he told me that he made his own decisions. And the things that he did were things that he wanted to do. And for me not to wear that because he's a man and he accepts his. And I accept that I put him in the position to begin with. And we reconciled, and that's my baby. You know, they're always going to be my babies. And I will forever regret the trauma that I caused on my children. And a lot of us won't acknowledge that we are the source of the trauma that our children experienced.
Right.
And I was. I knew that God wanted me to be a wife. I just didn't know how to pick a husband. And I married people who, Lord help them, should never been married. And I decided that my love was enough. And if you love a person enough, and if you're there for them, and if you try to meet all these needs that they have, then things should be fine, right? Absolutely not. Because they have free will. And everybody doesn't want to be okay, believe it or not. Some people like living in toxicity. And so I would encourage moms who've ever been in a situation like me. I don't speak to daddies because I'm not a man, and that's not my place. Moms, I would say if you have an estranged relationship with your children because of divorce or them feeling like you chose a man over them or you don't love them or any of that stuff, be woman enough to acknowledge their hurt and their trauma and be mom enough to admit to them that you caused that trauma and that you're sorry. Doing what you have to do is acceptable, but that doesn't mean it doesn't hurt your children. It doesn't mean that it's not a source of trauma for them. And it doesn't mean that your relationship will ever be healed with them if you're not able to admit that you had a part in this.
Right. Right. Yeah. Another story for me. So the middle son, and you'll have this happen if it has happened. It happens. I'll say this. It happens a lot. Okay. It happens a lot that the child will say to the engrafted parent, "Well, you're not my daddy, or you're not my mama. You can't tell me what to do. This, that, and the other." Mine was a little bit different. Okay. Two stories. One story was the middle boy had done something stupid, and Sharhonda had
Don't
put.
say what order
Had put okay. Well, anyway, he had done something stupid, and Sharhonda had put him on punishment. Okay, and the punishment was he was to come straight home from school. He was not to have any of his friends come over because he loved hanging with his friends. And I'm sitting here. I got home. I got off work early, and as I'm sitting here, he comes through the door, and he doesn't know that I got off early. He comes bobbing through the door, and he got his friend with him. So I turn around and I say to him, what's going on? Did your mama tell you you weren't going to punish me? You can have your friends? So at this point, his pride is hurt. So I see that, and I turn back around and continue what I'm doing on the computer. Him and his friends are just standing there in limbo. So I turn back to him and say, what part didn't you hear? You can't have free your punishment. Now, we live on the second floor, people, okay? This child says to me, F me. And I, at that moment, Yo, you guys ever seen Underworld? The guy that have the two whips? I snatched the belt off, right? The belt just comes out of the thing, right? And I turn around and he's gone. Him and the little boy. Now in my mind,
It's two little boys.
it's two little boys. Oh yeah, it's him and two of his friends. So in my mind, I'm thinking, I'm 2 stories up. I can make it and jump off that balcony and catch them as they come out the door. But then I think, nah, you're a little older. What happens if you break something? Okay? So I run after them. All right? I've never seen a child move so fast in my life. I am chasing them. For those that live in Missouri, I'm chasing them down Mirror Star Boulevard toward the casino. They're running out South Main Street, and his little homies, I don't know why they running. I'm not even after them. But they running. Okay? I could not catch him. You guys seen Blade when they was in the subway and Blade grabs the subway and the vampires are running behind the real fast, but that's how it was, man. They was gone. I could not catch them. All I ended up that day was being winded with the belt. I was so mad. I called Sharhonda, and she was like, "Well, he got to come back home." You know what I'm saying? And then he gonna wait till she come back home, and then we was able to talk. But my point being, I went through that type of deal. He did not respect my authority in the house. Then there's another episode of where he got in trouble again, and he's still on this whole "you ain't my daddy" type thing. Okay? He tells me the problem is that I don't respect him as a man. Okay? He literally says this to me. Me and Sean are here. We have this argument. He's like, my problem with you is you don't respect me as a man. I tell him, look here, you eat, sleep, and crap on my dime. The roof is over your head, I pay for that roof. All right? And understand our kids were spoiled. When I tell you spoiled, everything that I would buy for myself, I would buy for them. If I went out to go buy an Xbox, I buy two. They get one, I get one. If I bought a PS5, I buy two. Okay? But this man tells me this, that I don't respect him as a man. That I don't respect him as a man. And I tell him the following. I said, man, look, man, you eat, sleep, and crap on my dime. All right? When you get out, you get your own, you show me that you can stand on your own too, then I'll respect you as a man. All right? Now, another thing that we don't do as parents, and this is one of the ways that I believe that we spread trauma, is we do not support anyone. Family, child, mama, daddy, sister, brother, cousin. If you go out in the world and you commit crime and you do something stupid, do not waste your phone call on me. This is particularly for my son. My sons will all tell you, if we do something crazy and we go to jail, we might have to call mom and daddy, because we're not the parents that's going to put the house up for your bond. We ain't going to the bail bondman. We're going to leave you in the bed that you made because we raised you better. All right? And what you do in the world is a reflection on us. Either you're honoring us or you're shaming us. If you do something stupid to shame us, we are not going to uphold you in that sin and in that shame. All right? Again, we had a son that tried it. He got into a fight at school to where the police had to be called. The police called me and Sharhonda, and they tell us, we got your son. He started this fight at school, and the policy out here is when the police are called, we lock him up. Now he's a minor, and we can't keep him indefinitely.
Yeah, you have to go get him by like
me and Sharhonda was on
7:00,
but we was straight up on. No, you keep him.
Well, we got there at 6:59.
Yeah. I was like, how come you can't keep him if he did the stupidity? So the police officer is like, if you don't come get him, we will come get you for being an unfit parent.
Child abandonment.
Child abandonment. Yeah. So we're like, well, what time do you close? They're like 7:00. I didn't show up at 6:59. Okay. Which one of the things that parents oftentimes do, because it's their child, is they will uphold him, and we have that bad in our culture. They'll uphold him in sin instead of just saying, okay, look, you made the bed, you got to lay in it. I love you, but I'm not going to support you. We're not the people that's going to put money on your books if you do something stupid. That's not us. Okay.
The thing is, I think one of the biggest takeaways is our standards were for all of the children.
Right.
They weren't, my children had this standard, his had that standard. We had one standard for all the children. And now they're all adults and
living productive lives.
with
That
children.
that son now understands what I was talking about, and he's made me proud. He beat the odds actually, and is living a prosperous life. Him and his fiance, they're living a really good life. He has a good job, and pretty much all my sons are like that. All my sons actually turned out to be productive members of society, but it's because we are no nonsense parents and we recognize the trauma that we spread. Okay, we had the final story. I'm gonna tell you, this was hilarious as well. Okay, we had an episode of one son, and this is concerning BJ, so I'm gonna name him in it because just in honor of him, because it was a funny moment. Okay, so when, like Sharhonda said, BJ came to live with us when he was 6 years old. All right, and that also was a huge change because up until that point, it was only her sons living here. Okay, so when BJ came here, he actually gravitated towards our youngest son, Sharhonda's youngest boy, our youngest son on her side. Okay, they became inseparable, but it didn't start out that way. It started out that the younger boy was kind of jealous of BJ. He kind of looked at BJ as an invader, so to speak. That here has been the situation where my mom is
I've been the baby my whole life, and now I'm not gonna be the baby.
And now I'm not gonna be the baby. Okay, so what he did was he would do things to get BJ in trouble. And one of the things that he did one day was he came to us and told us when they got off the bus, he was the older. So I would tell him, when you get off the bus, make sure that BJ's okay. Y'all both look both ways, cross the street. But he would come and tell us BJ ran out into the street and almost got hit by a car. So the first time he did that, it freaked me out or whatever the case may be, and BJ got in trouble. All right, but he kept coming with the story. All right, he did it again. He did it again. Okay, and he had done it. He had said this story maybe like 2 times. All right. Again, I got off work early one day. They let me go home early. So I said, in my mind, I said, I think I know what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna park across the street and I'm gonna watch them when they get off the bus. So I park across the street. The bus pulls up. They both get off the bus. I see him and BJ go walking up the driveway and come right on into the house, right? I wait about 5 minutes and come into the house. And the moment that I come into the house, he meets me at the door. Dad, you ain't gonna believe it. BJ did it again. And this time BJ's like, but I didn't know. Okay. And I'm playing along with him. I'm like, did he? Yeah, Dad, this time I'm talking about, it was a car coming down. I had to grab him.
He almost got hit.
Got hit this time. And BJ's eyes as big as $2 bills. He said, Dad, I didn't do it. Dad, I swear, I promise you he did. All right. I said, are you sure he did it, Jay? Yeah. I said, you know what? I'm gonna beat your butt. Then Joe looking crazy and BJ looking like, what? I said, see, what you don't know is I was across the street and watched y'all go up in there. He ran a bit more around the street than I am light skinned.
And that brought about the whole conversation about him feeling like he was being pushed out of the way.
Yeah. So he got his butt beat, but it, like Sharhonda said, we had a conversation, and he genuinely felt like the BJ was an invader, like that there was a competition. I mean, you don't realize that kind of trauma can exist with a blended family where you got kids that actually think, well, that's my mama, well, that's my daddy.
I'm being replaced, or
right.
And
but
so
go ahead.
Once we got over that hurdle, because it is a hurdle, they became thick as thieves, and then they united against us.
Right. Right. Yeah.
How do you win?
Yeah. How do you win? I'm going to conclude by saying this. Again, I hope you guys got a lot out of this. I took on the job of raising another man's child or children, other men's children, when we got together as a blended family, because I recognize that that's actually how you reverse the cycle of dysfunction. If the dysfunction comes about because the parents did not work out and did not make it, then how you heal that dysfunction is you set the example, you set the standard, and you do not deviate from that. You recognize that the situation is challenging. And for me, I felt like it wasn't their fault that their dads didn't cut the mustard. It wasn't their fault, and it was my responsibility to teach them how to be strong, black men with integrity and dignity. Strong, dignified black men with integrity, and dignity. So that they could go out into the community, because like I just told you, what you do impacts them, and then it impacts the community. And I wanted them to grow up and impact the community in a positive way. I wanted them to grow up and be able to take a look at me and their mom and say, even though my biological dad and mom did not work out, I had an example. My mom and my engrafted parent, for lack of better words, uh, did set the example. He showed us how to love a woman. That he loved my mom, and they stuck it out, and they made sure that we had, and they worked hard. The idea that it takes a village. We say that, but we don't understand the gravity of it. You know, so that's why I did. I love them all dearly. I love the grandkids that they've given us. Uh, they can come to me for anything, and they know that they can come to me and talk to me about anything. And if it's mine and they're in the right standing, then I absolutely will help them out. Uh, and it worked. Again, we are an example that against the odds, it can work. You can have a good relationship, a prosperous relationship, a healthy relationship, even if you didn't start out that way, and even if you didn't start out optimally. You
And I also wanted to say, for people who are single and you're thinking, this guy's really nice and but he has a kid, so I can't do that. You and this guy, you and the next guy could have a kid together, and you both stay in the house with that kid, and you love him and you nurture him, and you could still get a "I hate you, you ruined my life" at 14, because kids go through these phases. So don't think that you will only get negativity in raising a child if it's a bonus child,
Right.
because that's absolutely not factual. Because
Right.
I've had it with my biologicals.
Right.
It's just children being children. We did it.
Right.
But blended families can work if everybody involved is willing to put in the work. If you can put your pride aside and your attitudes, and you can sit and talk about things, have productive discussions. My advice to anyone who is in or who is thinking about getting into a situation where they will be in a blended family: get therapy. All of you need therapy.
Yep.
Especially the children, but you all need therapy. I don't think it's a good idea to marry anyone anymore without therapy. Right. Because we have gone so far from the biblical mandates that we have to have some kind of guidance. Mm-hmm. And most people are just making it by the skin of their teeth. They're trying to make the right decisions, and if it goes right, it goes right. If it goes wrong, it goes wrong. Therapy. And in the Black community, that's almost like a curse word. But therapy. Right. Therapy will help. If you want a functional relationship, if you want to raise functional, mature, or children who grow to be functional, mature adults, it's a good idea to get some kind of therapy.
Absolutely.
Spiritual and psychological.
Absolutely. I would like to add to what she's saying. Communication is a huge thing. We talk about it, but what does that look like? One of the things that we did with our boys was me and her start thinking, especially when we lived in St. Louis City. We were thinking of all the things that they would face, like in the inner city schools and that type of thing. And we wanted to give them a voice. Now, to give them a voice, we had to let it be known that no subject was taboo, that we were not in any way.
This was not a trap.
It was not a trap. We had, for lack of better words, we kind of had to create a spiritual safe space for them. to be able to say, hey, this is what's going on today. You know what I'm saying? The day was rough. We would check in with them.
Yep.
Again, like my wife said, it's an investment. You have to be wholly involved. I mean, we got to the place where, as two working parents, we homeschooled our children. So that's a whole nother story that we'll save for another time. We took that challenge on as well. We start thinking that, for 8+ hours a day, these children are with someone else teaching them something. We don't know what that person believes, what their ideals are, what they're getting, what they're not
and
getting.
they're snatching pepperoni off a pizza and throwing it at our kids.
Yeah, we had issues with their dietary stuff as well. But that's another story. But my point being is that communication is key. There used to be a time, especially when I was growing up, that at dinner time you stopped what you were doing, and you came and you sat down we would sit down at the table with our mom and our dad. You know what I'm saying? We all ate together, and we would communicate. That's now gone because
life has gotten so hectic. Everybody's schedules.
Right.
But carve out a time for your children to be able to, but you have to make it safe. You can't be that parent that if they say something that throws you for a loop, you can't be like, see, I'm gonna go get no. This is a space where you can say whatever it is that you're feeling, whatever it is that you're thinking. And my job as your parent is to listen and guide you.
Right.
Because that's the only way, that's a good way to start your children to learn how to communicate with you. So then when they have problems when they're older, they will still communicate those things to you rather than hide them from you. If you are a reactive parent, like anything they say that you're reactive to it, then they're not going to tell you as much. If you're a reactive spouse, your partner's not going to talk to you much. If they say, babe, we need to talk about something. What is it? Every time I turn around, you want to talk about something, they're going to stop wanting to talk to you.
Right.
Now you're sitting here, well, he doesn't tell me anything. Well, he doesn't, because every time he tries to, this is what you do.
Right.
You have to not be reactive. If you have a meltdown about it, wait till after the family session is done and go melt down in the bedroom.
Right.
But you have to open a pathway for your children to trust you, to be able to talk to you, because this world is a lot scarier now than it was when we were raising our kids.
Right.
And you don't want kids who don't tell you things.
Correct.
Because that's horrifying to me. And we even do that with our grandkids. We continually tell them, just come talk to us, whatever it's about. We have a deck of cards that I use with the 15-year-old to get him to talk about things that are going on in his life. And he answers the cards, and some of his answers was like, woo, okay. But I want him to feel like he can communicate with us about anything, because that lessens the chance that we're going to have a child out here doing something that we don't know about, and they end up in a bad situation.
Right.
So open the passageway for your children to be able to trust you enough to tell you even the bad things. Right. And in order for that to happen, you have to not be a reactive parent.
Absolutely. That's it. That's what we have for the episode. As Sharhonda said, the people who participated in the question game, you guys are getting free journals. So, and we plan to have
I won't send them during Shabbat.
Yep.
But you'll get them by Monday.
Yeah. So we won't have an episode next week, but we will have an episode the following Saturday, and we're going to continue this discussion on trauma. In the next episode, we're going to go really deep. We're going to deal with childhood trauma. We're going to deal with sexual abuse. That's going to be one of the topics that we deal with, and what that looks like, because
a lot of husbands have wives who have gone through childhood sexual trauma and never told anybody. Some husbands are hearing it for the first time she's ever said it.
Right.
And there's a lot to maneuver when you have someone who's been violated like that.
Yep. So that's going to be one of the topics that we're discussing. We're always open to constructive criticism. If you guys have topics that you want us to discuss that maybe haven't touched on yet, please put them in the comments. Per your situation, whatever your situation is, we're open. We're an open book, and we want to do as much as we can to make sure that it's not us talking about stuff that you guys can't relate to, that we are, hitting the bases. And
if you're having an issue in your marriage or your relationship, and you don't want to just come out and say, I'm having an issue in my relationship, what should I do? You can always suggest that thing as a topic.
yeah, or you can post anonymously. If you don't, if you don't want,
you can anonymously post it as a topic.
You can anonymously post it, and we certainly will respond. Our hearts are truly to help the community as a whole.
And we don't have to know your name to do it.
And we don't have to know your name to do it, because marriage is under attack. The idea of marriage is being attacked from every which direction you can think of, and we want to take what God has blessed us with and bless others. All right, if that makes sense. All right. So we love you guys. It's great.
Enjoy your now rainy Shabbat.
Yeah, enjoy your now rainy Shabbat. I was supposed to be going to a car show today. I don't know if that's going to happen, but I got some hours, so hopefully the rain will let up, and I can go and enjoy the car show with my wife. Blessings to y'all. We love you all. And until next time on the Couch with Sharhonda and Julian. Bye bye.